The world watched as missiles streaked across the night sky, but what really happened in those decisive moments remains shrouded in lies. Israel claims victory while hiding critical damage. Iran declares success, but conceals its true capabilities. Behind the smoke and propaganda, a seismic shift has occurred that no government wants to admit. The balance of power in the Middle East has been fundamentally altered, and what comes next will reshape alliances, redraw red lines, and determine the future of global security. This is not just another conflict, this is the moment everything changed, and the truth can no longer be contained. The true extent of the damage inflicted by Iran's attack extends far beyond what's visible in satellite images or official statements. While the world focuses on burned-out buildings and intercepted missiles, the strategic blows strike much deeper, compromising systems Israel can't afford to acknowledge publicly. Critical infrastructure networks, painstakingly developed over decades, suffered targeted hits that don't make dramatic footage, but will take years to fully repair. Power grids serving military installations experienced mysterious cascading failures hours after the initial attack, suggesting embedded cyber warfare components timed to activate post-strike. Underground command centers, supposedly impenetrable, reported communications blackouts lasting precisely 47 minutes, just long enough to create dangerous gaps in response coordination. Perhaps most damning are the whispers from intelligence circles about compromised early warning systems along northern borders, their calibration mysteriously skewed during the attack's critical opening minutes. The economic toll remains carefully uncategorized, with billions in shadow damage, specialized military tech, proprietary defense algorithms, and air defense expendables drained at unsustainable rates during the engagement. Even Israel's vaunted cybersecurity superiority shows cracks, with forensic evidence suggesting Iranian malware had been dormant in industrial control systems for months, awaiting this exact moment. The attack exposed a terrifying vulnerability that some strikes weren't intercepted because they were never detected in the first place, their flight paths exploiting blind spots in radar coverage that shouldn't exist. Private briefings to allied governments reportedly included alarming data about temporary but critical failures in chain-of-command protocols, creating windows of vulnerability no military can afford. Perhaps most telling is the uncharacteristic silence from typically boastful defense officials about minor damage, their restraint suggesting they're hiding not just the scale of loss, but the frightening implications of how Iran precisely identified and exploited systemic weaknesses. The real damage isn't measured in rubble, but in the irreversible loss of something far more precious, the aura of invincibility that's been Israel's ultimate deterrent for generations. Every restricted report, every classified damage assessment tells the same story. This wasn't just an attack, it was an autopsy, and Iran just proved it knows exactly where Israel's vital organs are located. Israel's military reputation as an impenetrable fortress suffered irreparable damage during Iran's calculated strike. The Iron Dome, celebrated for its 90% plus interception rate, revealed alarming gaps when faced with simultaneous waves of different missile types. A tactical approach Iran clearly developed through meticulous study of Israeli defense pattern. Early warning systems failed to detect low-flying cruise missiles skirting below radar coverage, while ballistic missiles approached from unexpected trajectories that overwhelmed response protocols. Satellite imagery analysts identified at least 3 critical military bases where damage was hastily covered up, with telltale signs of strikes on sensitive logistics hubs storing precision-guided munitions. The attack exposed a fatal flaw in Israel's layered defense strategy. Its systems were engineered to handle sporadic attacks from militant groups, not a coordinated assault deploying hundreds of advanced projectiles with decoy saturation. Military communications experienced dangerous latency during the attack's peak, with encrypted channels overloading and forcing reliance on outdated backup systems vulnerable to exploitation. Perhaps most damning are the after-action reports from air defense crews describing impossible choices which incoming threats to prioritize when systems couldn't process the volume, leading to uncharacteristic errors in interception sequencing. The psychological impact on military personnel may prove more lasting than physical damage, with morale shaken by the realization that their technological edge can be outmaneuvered. Iran demonstrated an unnerving understanding of exactly how to stretch Israel's defenses beyond their breaking point, striking at shift changes when response teams were transitioning, timing waves to coincide with system reboots, and exploiting known weaknesses in perimeter security at remote installations. The myth of Israeli military invincibility didn't just crack, it shattered the moment security cameras captured the unprecedented sight of base personnel scrambling for bunkers rather than manning defenses. This wasn't failure by chance, it was defeat by design, with Iran's strategists having mapped every vulnerability through years of observation, turning Israel's own intelligence-gathering precision against it. The true cost appears not in immediate casualties, but in the irreversible loss of strategic ambiguity. Allies and adversaries alike now possess blueprints for penetrating what was once considered the Middle East's most formidable defense network. The psychological impact of Iran's attack struck deeper than any physical damage, rupturing Israel's carefully cultivated aura of invulnerability that has served as its ultimate deterrent for decades. For the first time, civilians across the country experienced the visceral terror of air raid sirens, wailing simultaneously from the Golan Heights to Eilat, exposing the uncomfortable truth that geography no longer guarantees safety. Underground shelters, long treated as relics of past conflicts, saw panicked crowds of residents who never imagined needing them in an era of supposed military supremacy. The attack shattered the national psyche's foundational pillar, the belief that superior technology and intelligence could prevent enemies from striking the heart of the country at will. Social media erupted with uncharacteristic displays of public doubt as footage circulated of intercepted missiles exploding over major cities, their fiery debris raining down on streets normally buzzing with nightlife. Business leaders quietly began contingency planning previously considered unthinkable, while military analysts noted an alarming shift in rhetoric, from confident projections of dominance to nervous calculations about escalation scenarios. The attack's timing proved particularly devastating, coming after years of government assurances that regional adversaries had been effectively contained through covert operations and technological superiority. Parents faced uncomfortable questions from children who grew up hearing stories of Israel's military invincibility, now witnessing scenes of vulnerability broadcast globally in real time. Perhaps most damaging was the subconscious realization that crossed every citizen's mind during those tense hours. If Iran could coordinate this level of strike today, what might be possible tomorrow with more advanced weapons? The psychological blow extended beyond borders, with diaspora communities experiencing a collective crisis of confidence as their adopted nation's media dissected Israel's unexpected exposure. This erosion of the collective national self-image may prove more strategically significant than any temporary military setback, fundamentally altering both domestic morale and international perceptions in ways that can't be repaired through routine propaganda or public relations campaigns. The unshakable confidence that once allowed Israelis to dismiss regional threats as manageable nuisances has been replaced by a gnawing awareness that their enemies' capabilities have quietly reached parity in certain critical domains. The geopolitical earthquake triggered by Iran's attack sent shockwaves through power corridors from Washington to Riyadh, exposing cracks in alliances once considered unshakable. Traditional allies found themselves recalibrating their Middle East strategies as the strike demonstrated Iran's capacity to penetrate what were believed to be impregnable defenses with frightening precision. Gulf states that had been quietly normalizing relations with Israel paused their overtures, recalculating the regional balance of power as their intelligence agencies pored over data showing unexpected vulnerabilities in Israeli response systems. The attack forced Western powers into uncomfortable positions. their military advisors privately acknowledging that the much-touted integrated air defense networks they helped build contained flaws that Iran exploited with surgical efficiency. Russia and China seized the opportunity to amplify their narratives about American-backed security architectures, failing at critical moments, circulating detailed analyses of the attack's success through diplomatic back channels to global South nations. The United Nations Security Council emergency session revealed startling divisions, with even typically pro-Israel diplomats expressing concerns about the broader implications of such a visible demonstration of eroded deterrence. Defense contractors scrambled to assess how the attack would impact sales of systems modeled after Israel's now questioned technologies, while rival nations accelerated their own missile development programs, studying Iran's effective combination of drone swarms and precision ballistic strikes. Perhaps most telling was the muted response from Washington, the usual robust declarations of unwavering support, replaced by carefully worded statements emphasizing de-escalation, suggesting a recognition that the attack had altered fundamental regional equations. Oil markets reacted with unusual volatility, not to the events themselves, but to the realization that Iran had demonstrated an ability to execute complex, coordinated strikes despite years of sanctions designed to cripple its military capabilities. The attack's aftermath saw an unprecedented flurry of diplomatic activity across the region, not to condemn Iran, but to reassess alignments, with several nations quietly opening back-channel communications with Tehran while maintaining public neutrality. This realignment extends beyond immediate military considerations into economic partnerships and energy security deals, as regional players hedge their bets in anticipation of a new era where Israeli military dominance can no longer be assumed. The strike didn't just damage physical targets, it fractured the psychological foundation of an entire regional order carefully constructed over decades, leaving allies and adversaries alike struggling to navigate uncharted territory where old certainties no longer apply. In the deliberate media blackout surrounding the full extent of Israel's damage, reveals more about the psychological warfare dimension than any censored footage ever could. While international networks recycled the same few sanctioned clips of Iron Dome interceptions, ground-level leaks told a different story. Shaky smartphone videos showing missile impacts far from declared interception zones, emergency vehicles converging on undisclosed locations, and unusual nighttime activity at military hospitals, suggesting higher casualty numbers. The disconnect between official statements and visual evidence became so glaring that even typically sympathetic Western outlets began questioning the narrative, with veteran war correspondents noting inconsistencies in damage assessments. Israel's tightly controlled information environment, usually so effective at shaping global perceptions, cracked under the weight of too many eyewitness accounts, and censored data slipping through the digital cracks. Telegram channels operated by Iraqi and Lebanese militias circulated time-stamped footage showing successful strikes on sensitive sites, their geolocation later verified by independent analysts. The most damning evidence came from commercial satellite imagery that contradicted official damage reports, revealing unreported hits on strategic infrastructure that explained subsequent power and communications disruption. This information vacuum created fertile ground for speculation, with weapons experts piecing together concerning details from missile debris that suggested more advanced Iranian capabilities than previously assessed. The media blackout ultimately backfired, transforming what might have been perceived as a contained incident into a credibility crisis, as the very attempt to control the narrative confirmed there was something significant to hide. Social media algorithms amplified the discrepancies, with side-by-side comparisons of government statements versus leaked evidence going viral across platforms. Even more telling were the subtle shifts in language from typically pro-Ashram commentators whose gradual transition from absolute confidence to carefully qualified support signaled their private awareness that the official story didn't align with available facts. The episode exposed a new reality in modern conflict. that complete information control is impossible in an era of ubiquitous sensors and instant global communication, making attempts at censorship more damaging than transparency would have been. What began as a security precaution became a strategic liability, as the gaps between authorized imagery and ground truth created space for Iran's narrative to gain traction internationally. The lasting impact may be the erosion of trust in official channels, not just in Israel, but among allies who relied on their assessments, potentially complicating future intelligence sharing and coordinated responses. This media dimension of the conflict ultimately proved just as consequential as the military exchange, demonstrating that in contemporary warfare, controlling perceptions is often as critical as controlling territory. Iran's strike represented far more than a retaliatory gesture. It was a masterclass in asymmetric warfare that combined precision military planning with profound psychological impact. The attack's timing and methodology revealed years of meticulous preparation, with each wave of missiles and drones carefully calibrated to test different layers of Israel's defense systems simultaneously. Military analysts noted with concern how Iran employed an innovative mix of low-cost decoys and high-value munitions, forcing Israel to expend disproportionate resources on interceptors while the real threat slipped through. The strike package demonstrated frightening synchronization, ballistic missiles arriving precisely as drone swarms overloaded radar systems, while cruise missiles approached from unexpected vectors at treetop level. What appeared as a blunt force assault was actually a surgical probe of Israeli weaknesses, with Iran gathering priceless intelligence on response times, interception priorities, and system saturation points with each successive wave. The operation showcased Iran's ability to coordinate complex multi-animal attacks across vast distances, a capability previously doubted by Western intelligence agencies. Perhaps most alarmingly, the attack revealed Iran's willingness to escalate directly rather than through proxies, marking a strategic shift that redraws regional red lines. The precision of certain strikes suggested either human intelligence assets on the ground or sophisticated satellite targeting capabilities, both scenarios equally troubling for Israeli security planners. Post-strike, Iranian commanders carefully studied Israel's response patterns, gaining insights that will inform future operations while simultaneously demonstrating to regional allies that the era of Israeli impunity has ended. The attack's aftermath saw Iran positioning itself as the dominant military power in the region, with its ability to penetrate Israeli defenses serving as a potent message to Gulf states considering normalization. Behind the scenes, weapons specialists pored over debris fragments, uncovering evidence of improved guidance systems and warhead designs that surpassed previous estimates of Iranian technical capability. This wasn't merely an attack. It was a live demonstration of Iran's evolving doctrine that blends conventional and unconventional warfare, where the psychological impact of exposing enemy vulnerabilities becomes as strategically valuable as physical damage. The operation's success guarantees accelerated funding for Iran's missile programs while potentially attracting new clients for its weapons technology. In chess terms, Iran sacrificed its pawns to reveal Israel's king, and the entire Middle East witnessed the checkmate potential. This was never just about missiles or retaliation. This was about power, real power, the kind that doesn't just explode on impact, but lingers in the minds of enemies and allies alike. Israel's hidden damage, Iran's cold precision, the crumbling myth of invincibility. They all scream one truth: the Middle East will never be the same. The old rules are dead. The next chapter won't be written by brute force, but by strategy. Iran just proved it can strike at will. The world is watching. The question is, what happens now? Thank you. In closing, to everyone who listens, thinks, and questions, thank you. The world needs more minds like yours. Stay aware. Stay sharp. And to those navigating these dangerous times, watch closely. The storm isn't over.